Brian Schottenheimer. On the other side of the ball, you move on from these players that you would have kept. So it's hard to reconcile those two things.
You're saying that some of the moves they make feel like win-now moves, and then trading him away for 2 first-round picks, which, by the way, don't figure to be very high picks, feels like the opposite of that. And so in your mind, if a dollar is worth 100 cents, what did they get for him in this trade?
60 cents on the dollar. And let me bring up 2 teams in particular, the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills drafted a defensive lineman in the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th round and signed Joey Bosa. You're moving into a new stadium, and you have a chance to get a transformational player. This is the best player outside of Troy Aikman-Greeny that the Dallas Cowboys have drafted in 31 years. Yeah. And you can go get him moving into a new stadium, and you're trying to get over the hump to beat the Chiefs. You're the Ravens, and you have a chance to get a player like Micah Parsons. Who knows? Maybe the Chargers. Who knows who else steps in? But the fact that they didn't create a sense of urgency in March was a massive mistake that will cost this franchise for years, because you just don't know who else would have stepped up back then.
That's the point. I think for all the people yesterday that I was seeing on social media and other places saying, oh, they're better off not having paid all that money for him, that's fine. If that's the way you feel, that's one thing. But this was not the way to go about it. This was not done. This was not planned. This wound up being forced upon them. Okay, I have made you guys wait too long. Dan Orlovsky, you've heard all of this. This is how it happened. This is where we are. What's your reaction?
Good organizations do not trade Hall of Fame players in their prime. Right now, the Cowboys are not a good organization. This will go down as one of the worst trades in the history of their football team and their organization. They traded away a future Hall of Famer for what likely will be the 28th to the 32nd pick in the 1st round.
Right.
The Packers are going to be good as long as Jordan Love is healthy. You got 2 picks that are basically early 2nd round picks, and depending on if the draft is loaded with talent or not, could be very invaluable to that football team. I think the shine for the Cowboys is gone because of this. When I grew up, no one left the Dallas Cowboys. Nobody. The fact that this was Micah initiating, I don't want to be here anymore. The allure of the star feels gone. They got fleeced. This is not a trade that you can sit here and go, well, they're going to use those picks to go get Arch Manning. Arch Manning ain't going to be there at 30 when you guys are picking in 2 years. So right. I look at this and go, from a business perspective, Jerry Jones 100% lost this negotiation. From a football perspective, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys 100% lost this negotiation. This is one of the, as far as we won or lost, worst days in the Cowboys since Jerry Jones has owned them. And this is like remember after the Green Bay Packer debacle in the playoffs?
Yeah.
He could not have handled from that moment to this moment worse.
By the way, Kenny Clark, the player they get in this, will be 30 in October. Really good player, but obviously an aging player. D-Wood, go.
Jerry Jones reminds me right now of Al Davis at the end of his career. Mm-hmm. It's almost sad to see, to be honest with you. Jerry Jones has done a lot for the game of football. Everyone knows that he's in the Hall of Fame owner. The marketing aspect, the business acumen, he's done so much for the game of football. But when you see a move like this, it makes you sad for him and the Dallas Cowboys, because this is inconceivable to move again, like Dan talked about, a potentially Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame talent in Micah Parsons, literally right before week 1, when you're supposed to play the Philadelphia Eagles for 2, low round, first round draft picks. You are not going to get players, on the same level as a Micah Parsons. You don't deal away a 26-year-old superstar player on the cusp of the season. If you're going to make this move, and you guys have already said, you make this move in March, when you can literally open up the floodgates to all their teams. If someone wants to, give you, a king's ransom, that's the time to do it, not before the season. That's why I said Jerry Jones just reminds me of Al Davis right now.
I think that's why this is so shocking, right? Because the Cowboys always sign the guy, no matter how dragged out it gets, right? Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb just last year, we're used to this. This was not the plan. Something changed. And that's, I think, part of the reason it lives as a huge mistake, because if you get off your plan, then you end up making mistakes. And I think that's what happened for the Cowboys.
And we've been there. When you run a team, so many decisions happen. And let's say your plan changed. Greedy, you just put a Band-Aid on it. We just talked about that with Trey Hendrickson. Again, you don't get George Pickens on a one-year deal to start rebuilding 4 months later before you play games.
Ironically, the Cowboys make this trade yesterday on the same day that Forbes values them at $13 billion, which is 24% higher than any other team in the NFL. Shefty, go.
They're talking about the timing of the trade being off. The fact that the Cowboys should have looked to deal him in March, should have casted a wider net, even though I think there were multiple suitors here for Micah Parsons. But here was a call or two that I got after the trade came down yesterday. They asked, why are the Dallas Cowboys trading Micah Parsons in the conference? Why are they trading him to a team that has knocked them out of the playoffs in each of the last 3 years? Why are they not looking to deal him to an AFC team so that there will be one less obstacle as they try to use those picks and that player, Kenny Clark, to try to get back to the Super Bowl? I heard that from a couple of football executives yesterday, that they would have been better off dealing him in the AFC rather than to the team that's knocked them out of the playoffs the last 3 years. But I think in the end, this is also true, and this came from another executive as well. Jerry Jones felt like this was his modern-day version of a Herschel Walker trade. He felt like he needed to do something dramatic to shake up things for a team that has not reached the conference championship game in 30 years, that has not gotten past the divisional playoff round in 30 years. And by making a blockbuster, shocking trade the way he once did with Herschel Walker, he could inject youth and picks and another player into his team and recreate some of that excitement that the Cowboys had the last time they went on an extended postseason run.
But he's wrong thinking that. That's the whole
not
problem.
that trade.
No one is sitting here going, trading Micah Parsons is the dumbest thing you can do. Everybody, whether you're deep into the front office operations of how it all works, or you cover the sport, you're an analyst, is sitting here going, you did this a week before the season, and then you did it to a team that is going to be picking late in the first round.
Yeah.
You didn't do it with a team like the Jags or the Browns or somebody that has a higher likelihood of struggling, and then those picks become the transformation. That's what that's the crux of this is. For the guy who's running the football team, this doesn't make football sense.
Here's the Herschel Walker trade. They got 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, a third-round pick, and a 6th-round pick.
I mean, that's
there
not
it
even
is.
close.
Yeah. So, to me, again, do we get there in March, guys? I can't say here in good conscience you get there. But what I can tell you is, being on the other end of these calls for 20 years, guys, when you get a 26-year-old future Hall of Fame pass rusher in their prime, those are the sort of things you think about.
How many game records are there in the NFL?
Maybe a dozen.
That's high.
Yep.
Game records, not probably 6 or 7. TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Dexter. This guy's a game wrecker. He wrecks football games. Mm-hmm. You don't just give them away for a player that might be drafted at 28 or 30 and hope is an impactful player. You gave him away.
You know what Jimmy Johnson didn't do? He didn't orchestrate the Herschel Walker trade in one day because they were starting preparation for the Eagles on Friday and they didn't want this hanging over them, so they made sure they did it on Thursday. That was a calculated decision that made a lot of sense in a variety of ways. It was criticized at the time. Sure. I was covering the NFL at that time. There were people who were criticizing the Cowboys for trading away the player. Obviously, they get the last laugh. It was the way they built the dynasty. This is so far from that, both in planning and in execution, that it really doesn't, they don't belong in the same sentence. Now, we will have plenty more time, pardon me, I'm choked up just thinking about it all. We'll have plenty more time to dive into the Cowboys side of this.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go to the other side. The Green Bay Packers were already many people's pick to represent the NFC. They come in this incredibly difficult division. They just acquired essentially for this season, they acquired Micah Parsons straight up for Kenny Clark. They have 2 first-round picks that they traded away as well, but that doesn't impact this season. So what does this make the Green Bay Packers?
The team to beat in the NFC North and the team that's most equipped to knock off the Eagles. This organization never swung like this with Aaron Rodgers. They never made a trade like this when they had Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
This is an all-in move with Jordan Love. So now it's an offense that is loaded. But you talk about Rashawn Gary, who's their other pass rusher, and Mike Parsons. That's the best pass rush duo in the NFC now. In the the whole conference. So the Packers were a team that was just maybe a tier below. Now they are right there and fully equipped to knock off the Eagles and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And this is now a couple-year window where Jordan Love can go get it done for an organization that has had elite quarterbacks and not enough Super Bowl wins in the last 20 years.
When you talk about just a tier below, Packers lost 7 games last year. One was a throwaway at the end. They didn't start their guys. The others were 2 to the Eagles, 2 to the Vikings, 2 to the Lions. The 3 best teams in the NFC last year. That's the only games they lost that they were trying to win. So they are right there. So what are they doing? They draft a wide receiver in the first round for the first time in more than 2 decades. That's unlike them. A move like this is unlike them. But this is a team, by the way, youngest roster in the league, got younger with this move.
Yeah.
And still believes it's not only poised to win this next Super Bowl,
100%.
but maybe a whole bunch of them if this move works out the way they think.
That was the thing I was going to say. This is an incredibly young roster. Now you bring in a guy, Michael Parsons, who again is 26 years old. Just think about it. All this talent is going to grow together. They're going. This nucleus is going to be together for quite some time. They have a long runway to do a lot of damage moving forward.
Let me put A67 up just so you get a sense of how this was met in Vegas. ESPN Sportsbook now has Green Bay at 14-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 550 to win the NFC, and co-favorites to win the division with the Lions. So you see, those are pretty significant. If you don't speak gambling, those are pretty significant jumps that came on the heels of the Parsons trade.
And here's why, Greeny. When you build a team, the first thing you think about is how do we win the division? So if we were all running the Green Bay Packers, we
Bye.